What's going on, y'all? Jordan, another episode of Lightning Latest. Pretty busy one today. You know, we're coming up on more preseason, right? We're starting off 2-0. 2-0, great start. We're going to talk about a few different topics today, notably about Stammer, if he'll ever come back to us. We're also going to touch upon his Holmberg and Jake Gunsel as well, especially Gunsel's award chances this year, which I think he has a shot at a couple. And lastly, of course, our favorite, the what if. So let's get cracking. Let's talk about Stammer for a sec. So we love a Stammer sighting, right? He scored against the Panthers a couple of games ago for the Preds in preseason. We saw him last night. Played a majority of the game for the Preds last night, and missed a shootout opportunity. So he missed his shootout shot, in the end of last night's game, and the Preds lost to us, on the shootout. So, he's got 3 more years, $8 million a year left on his deal with the Predators, so he's going to be done there when he's around 38 years old. So then the question remains this. He'll be 38. Will he want to retire? Would he want to come back here? Would he want to go somewhere else? Would he want to stay in Nashville? There's a lot of different questions. The reason why we didn't re-sign him last year is because we already had a younger, in his prime, replacement of Jake Gunsel ready to go for the most part. So, as great as Stammer's been, Gunsel's been a better version of him because he's got more time left. So, but still, I'd love to see Stammer come back at the end of his time with the Predators, come back to us and play for another year or two and then retire. But who knows, he could want a shot at another Stanley Cup if he doesn't win it in the next couple of years with the Preds, and it's looking like it's not going to happen, especially after last year. But anything's possible. We have a few players left that will be here in 2028, 2029 when Stammer becomes a free agent again. Gunsel is one. Braden Point's another. Brandon Hagel. And then, we got Jacob Pelletier, and then a few centers. Anthony Cirelli, Nick Paul, Yanni Gourde. Nick Paul's on the injury reserve right now, so that kind of stinks, but he should be back in the next few weeks, so hopefully he's back soon. But, we still have plenty of depth at most of the positions, except for, on the wing, especially right wing, right? Because Kucherov will be a free agent in 2 years, and Bjorkstrand could be gone as well. So by the time Stammer's a free agent, both those guys could, in theory, be gone. Do I think Kucherov's going to be gone? No. Highly unlikely. But there's always a chance. Bjorkstrand also possible, but remember we talked about in our dream off season, right? He comes back, everything's hunky dory next year, and I really think he has a good shot at coming back and playing well for us. Depending on how some of these young players go, right? Like Geeky, like Goncalves, like Pelletier, there might not be room for Stammer. There might not be room for him in a few years, all of those players could be on new contracts and, still with us. Goncalves signed a 2-year bridge deal this offseason. If he plays better and earns another new deal in a couple of years, who's to say how long it's going to be and how much money it's going to be? Yeah, the cap's rising, but we're going to have to re-sign a lot of these players that they prove their worth, and they can, especially Geeky. If Geeky becomes that top 6 forward that a lot of people think he's going to be, come on, guys. He's going to be worth the money. So, there's going to be a lot of questions about where the money's going to be when Stammer is a free agent in 3 years. It all depends on a number of variables, obviously. It wouldn't be surprising to see him come back home, though. I mean, he spent the majority of his career here. I can almost assure you after he retires, there's a good shot he'll live here too, at least for some part of the year. Once if he does something with the organization, it could be, and scouting could be, as an ambassador like Pat Maroon just was hired to do, or it could be, and any other numbers or roles, or he just want to retire and relax. Anything's possible. His defensive play has declined over the last few years. His plus minus last year was a negative 36. He played in all 82 games and was pretty solid offensively, but negative 36 is not good. 2 years ago, his final season with the Bolts, negative 21 plus minus. So it really just depends where he's at in 3 years. If he even wants to continue to do this. So we'll see what happens. But one of his replacements, well, at least now one of his replacements, Pontus Holmberg. He's first season with us, signed a 2-year deal, and he's spent the first 3 years of his career with the Maple Leafs. So, not a bad start. Progressed slowly each season. He went from 13 points in 37 games his rookie year to 19 points at 68 games last year. 2-year deal gives him a chance to win the fourth line left wing spot. He's going to be competing with Jacob Pelletier for that role. And, I'm really intrigued to see who's going to snag that spot. Pelletier scored the game tying goal last night against the Preds. And he's shown, quite a bit. He's shown he wants to be considered for a regular role here. And if it continues, then that's great. Holmberg has played a lot as well in these first 2 preseason games. Should be playing more as the preseason progresses. Will he claim the lion's share of the minutes at that spot? That's a good question. And I'm not sure if he will or not. Because if Pelletier continues this play, you already know I was pretty high on him. So if he can continue pushing forward and getting some starts on his belt, getting more experience, scoring more, then it's going to be tough for Holmberg. However, if he can get to a 30-point season, right, with double-digit goals, it will go a long way towards boosting our offense, and that's something we really need, right? Last year, our depth on the last couple of lines was pretty tough. Now it's looking a lot better, and it needs to continue to get better in order to have a shot and compete, right? So if Holmberg can bring in more oomph, more offensive punch, that's great. Will he improve the depth and make us a stronger postseason candidate? Stronger even in the postseason when we try to march to get back to that cup. Because remember, we're probably going to have to go past the Panthers and or the Hurricanes to get there. So it's going to be tough. Can Holmberg help add to this offense? That's what we're all hoping for. But this offense could also use a boost from current players that have been there a minute. Not really quite a minute. After all, this is Jake Guentzel's second year with us. But could he win the Rocket Richard? 80 points last year, right? 41 goals, 39 assists. Second highest point total of his career. However, highest goal total of his career was last year with 41. Remember, the winner of the Rocket Richard last year, Leon Dratzel, 52 goals. That's it, 52 goals. So Guentzel was only 11 goals behind him. That's certainly feasible, especially now that he's in the second year of his deal with the Bolts. He's going to be on that front line, that top line most likely with Braden Point, Nikita Kucherov. Offense is going to be had there. He's going to continue to produce. And, he also had a great tournament with Team USA in the Four Nations face-off earlier this year. So I got high hopes for Guentzel. I think he's really going to be, a key piece for us this year. And I really think he's going to make a run for the Rocket Richard. I believe he's our best shot at it. Actually, I'm going to go out and say that. I think he's going to lead the team in points as well. Now, will he get there in goals? If he gets to 50, he's got a shot. Okay? Even late 40s, he's got a possible shot. However, I think it's going to take 55 goals to get there. So can he get there? He's still in his prime. He's only played in over 75 games in 5 of the last 10 seasons, including last year, though. So if he plays in all 82 games, it's entirely possible to surpass the 80 points he scored last year. And in fact, I believe he will. He'll have to average over the 1 point per game mark that he averaged last year. Probably closer to 1.5. But hey, that's great, especially if he can get all those goals in, right? We're trying to break the Richard. We want to break the Rocket Richard. We want to try to get 50, 55, 60 goals. It's certainly possible. I think he can definitely do it. I think his chemistry continues to grow with Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov. He's certainly got a shot. Because that first line, improving the offense is just as much on them as it is on the fourth. But we're going to transition back towards those last few lines. We're going to talk about Nicholas Backstrom. Now, longtime Capital Center just wrapped up a 5-year deal with Washington. $9.2 million this season. No way he's making that on his next deal. Absolutely no way. He's going to play in his native Sweden this year. There's a good chance he finishes his pro career at home. He turned 38. He will turn 38 in November, sorry. And he's missed the majority of the last 2 seasons due to some hip issues. It's kind of been a sad ending to his time there because, for a long time, he was Ovechkin's right-hand man. were the part of the engine that made that offense go. They were part of the engine that led the Caps to that Stanley Cup run a few years ago. So, Backstrom coming to us is pretty slim. Especially if he doesn't want to leave Sweden. If he doesn't want to leave Sweden, then why would he come to a longtime rival? However, any opportunity to be taken in order for our offense to be better has to be taken. And it can't hurt to ask, right? So far we've looked so good and looked pretty good in the first 2 games of the preseason, but we're looking for more. We're looking to be better. So hopefully we can get there. And Backstrom I think would be an interesting addition. Could be a very risky signing though, because he hasn't played over 80 games since 2018-2019. So the question is, would he want to come back? It could be for a second Stanley Cup of the NHL, or does he want to stay in Sweden? So it's a lot to talk about. Tomorrow, going to be interesting. We're going to cap off the week talking about our preseason Game 3 preview, right? We're going to be playing the Hurricanes again at home. Home opener, right? And then Jacob Pelletier, we're going to be talking more about him. Some other award odds, and also another what if. So this is Jordan Llanes signing off. Can't wait to break down some more stuff with y'all tomorrow. Preseason continues. Let's get after it.